show. Now we're gonna read it and weep.
Welcome to Read It and Weep, the podcast where we talk about books that we read in high school or books we've read in general. I'm Hanan.
I'm Carrie. Welcome to our show.
And today
we're talking about The Great Gatsby.
Ta-da! Still bookmarked from high school.
Ooh.
Okay, so we'll start with a synopsis and try to be a little bit more not as chaotic as last time, even though we're chaotic in general. Okay, so it starts, if you didn't know, it's by F. Scott Fitzgerald, and it's probably the book that everybody reads in high school. Like, if there was one book that no matter the state, town you were in, that you read in high school, it was probably Gatsby. So I pulled the Peanut Gallery when we were on our Zoom call the other week. And I got very mixed reactions. Some people like Gatsby, some people hate Gatsby. So this will be an interesting experience.
Because she likes it and I don't.
Yeah. But to start with the plot, our narrator is Nick Carraway. And he is an Ivy League graduate who is well off. He's well to do. Mm-hmm. And he moves in next to Gatsby. Yeah. So Gatsby has this really big, great mansion because he's a millionaire. And I guess we'll get to how he's acquired his wealth later. So he's like this rich young playboy. And then Nick goes to see his cousin, his distant cousin, Daisy. So Daisy Buchanan. And Daisy Buchanan, who is infamous in the hearts of high school readers, is married to Tom Buchanan. And Tom has a side chick. He's got a
Myrtle.
Hoe on the side.
A hoe on the side.
And her name is Myrtle.
Oh.
And Myrtle is married to George. And Gatsby's always had a thing for Daisy. So, to review, Nick is our narrator. Yep. And Nick moves in next to Gatsby, who has a thing for
his cousin Daisy.
Yeah, for Nick's cousin Daisy.
Daisy's married to Tom.
And Tom has a side hoe named
Myrtle because he's a tool.
He's a tool. We'll talk about him later. And Myrtle is married to a guy named George.
And we don't like George
And
either.
Nick is dating Jordan Baker, the golfer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got our characters laid out. And at some point, Tom just uncovers that Daisy used to have an on-again, off-again thing with Gatsby in the past, which is very important. And then Gatsby has moved back towards the area to try and get Daisy back. Yep. Because Gatsby's always had a thing for Daisy.
It just so happens that his mansion is right across the lake from her mansion. And he just stares off at it.
At the green light.
At the green light on her dock.
Stare at the green light at the end of the dock.
He's reaching out into the darkness.
Okay. And so we have a couple parties there, and then we head to Manhattan. Because when you're well-to-do in the top 1%, what do you do in the 20s to party? You go to Manhattan, to the Plaza Hotel. Yep. To drink away, even though it's not legal to drink.
It's not?
Not in the 20s.
Oh.
No prohibition. Okay, yeah. So they go to the Plaza Hotel, which I've seen the Plaza Hotel. You have not seen the Plaza Hotel. Not. Because we've had very mixed experiences in New York. Yeah.
It's funny going back over like Gatsby with the setting of New York well, you had already kind of been, but yeah. I had never been in high school, and then in college we went together, and there was
we had very mixed experiences seeing the beautiful sights like the Broadway theaters, but we were also exposed to like
the not beautiful sights. Well, it's like in Gatsby there's the luxe, of richness of New York, but then also there's the more desolate areas like the Valley of Ashes, and we kind of have it up on our own Valley of Ashes in New York. we were there for 3 days, and every single day we witnessed somebody throwing up.
Yeah.
The first time it was it happened on the street on the sidewalk right next to us, and I was like, I kind of stopped to like check on her, and you grabbed my hand and you were like, keep going. I was like, oh, but okay.
Ugh.
And the second day, that was the funniest one, because we were walking on the sidewalk and these guys were crossing the street.
We were in Soho.
And yeah, we were in Soho, and this dude is dry heaving as he's crossing the street, and his friend is like, here, you do the impression, do it better.
No, man, you can't do that here. I gotta find a bathroom for you. You can't do that here.
But he did it there. He threw up right in the middle of the crosswalk. Oh, that was so funny. But yeah, so we've seen some not very glamorous things in New York. So it's just kind of funny.
That being said, there are often times of high and a low to every city that you go to, and Manhattan is unique in itself. So they go to the Plaza Hotel and party like the bougie 1% that they are. And Tom confronts Gatsby a little bit about Daisy. There's a little bit of tension there. And then at some point we get separated, and Daisy finds herself in Gatsby's car. So Daisy is driving the car.
Yeah.
Daisy's driving down the street with Gatsby in the passenger seat. And guess who they hit?
Myrtle.
That whole Myrtle. They hit her. Okay, Tom is really the hoe here, but you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so they hit Myrtle. And Myrtle dies.
And then Tom and Nick happen upon Myrtle's body when they're driving. And Nick finds out later that it was Daisy that hit Myrtle. And we're pretty sure it was an accident.
Guess what he tells George?
Gatsby did it. Gatsby intended to take the fall. And so, obviously, Nick let him. And so then George, Myrtle's wife, finds out that Gatsby apparently killed his wife. And he...
Yeah, Gatsby decides to get in his pool that he never swims in. The one time he gets in his daggone pool. And George...
A bang bang!
Shoots Gatsby and kills him as revenge. So... Okay. We've gone over the plot. It's a doozy. It reaffirms the idea that everything we read in high school never has a happy ending. I'm convinced. Fairly convinced. I don't recall many works that ended happily.
Now I'm trying to think.
Okay, I don't recall, like, any.
Oh my god.
Just like real life doesn't have any happy endings. Am I right?
We didn't read anything with happy endings? What about the Scarlet Pimpernel?
I didn't read the Scarlet Pimpernel. I read it for fun. But, yeah, you're right. The Scarlet Pimpernel kind of has a happy ending.
Little Women had a happy ending.
Yeah. But, okay, like, ones that I read in, like, gross, like, for classrooms, like, we didn't.
Rip to the Crucible.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, I guess, structure-wise, we're going to start and, I guess, go through our character list and talk about the story that way. Because I think... in this story, we can start with Nick, because Nick Carraway, that pun of his last name, Carraway, Nick Carraway, like, cares away.
I don't get it.
The cares away? Like, throw your cares away?
Oh!
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's, like...
I'm tired.
It's okay. He's our narrator, because it's told in first-person point of view. But I think that he's an unreliable narrator. Because he's, like... thrilled with Gatsby.
He's biased.
Yeah, he's totally... he tells it biased, and yeah, he's odd. But I think unreliable narrators can be a good thing for a story. I like them. You've never read Gone with the Wind. You've seen it, though.
I hate Gone with the Wind.
Because sometimes, like, it's not good to have a protagonist that you don't like. Sometimes it's, like, good. But Scarlett O'Hara is not likable, I don't think. Ashley. Yeah, Carrie doesn't like.
I hate. It was 4 hours of my life that I will never get back.
Okay. But Nick is unreliable, not in a way that you hate him, but in a way that he's just kind of like, I don't know, super ambiguous. And in the classroom, oftentimes today, it's brought up if we think that Nick is homosexual or not.
I don't think he was intended to be that way.
No.
I think it's kind of like in Little Women with Joe, a lot of people now think that she gives off, like, lesbian vibes. I don't think Louisa May Alcott intended for her to be that way, although it was rumored that Louisa May Alcott was lesbian.
Yeah.
So, maybe. But I think it's kind of like that, where maybe Nick gives off those personality vibes, but I don't know if that was intentional for the time.
Yeah. Personally, I never read it that way, but
either.
that Nick was a homosexual. But I think mostly he's just, like, enamored with who Gatsby is. Because everybody reveres Gatsby as this sort of, like, god almost. And, like, Nick has the money, but, like, Nick doesn't have personality traits to be anything like Gatsby.
He's not, like, suave or charming. He doesn't really know what to do with his money because he's got that more sensical background of, like, a stockbroker. Whereas Gatsby is so bougie.
Right. Bougie. So I have, like, he's practical on the surface, but he uses big words because he's an Ivy League grad. In the end, he's just in awe of Gatsby, which brings us to Gatsby, who is our... Oh, Gatsby. So he got his money. He was a bootlegger.
Yeah.
So, again, 1920s prohibition was not legal to drink alcohol, but we did it anyway.
Gatsby was so in love with Daisy that the whole reason he had the parties and he had the money was because he wanted to impress her and match the kind of, like, decadent lifestyle that she currently had with Tom. And so he turned to crime to raise that money, and he threw those parties and spent all that money to impress her in hopes that maybe she'd, like, come back to him.
Right. And I think Gatsby embodies the whole idea that I think everybody can relate to, where if I could just get the thing that I want, then I'll be satisfied. And we both know from life experiences, it doesn't take very long in your life to realize...
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Switch. So, we got cut off by the camera dying. But what we were saying was, like, the whole idealized, wanting of Daisy and thinking, like, if I could just have this money, if I could just change this thing about me, I think kind of reflected in every high schooler's, mind. It's like, if I could be skinnier, the guy would want me. If I had more money, I would be happy.
Right.
If I was less awkward, I would be, like, the most popular girl in school. And high school was a time when we were all so insecure with ourselves and wanted to, like, perfect certain aspects that we hated of ourselves, whether it be, like, physically or, like, materialistic or personality-wise. And so I think that aspect of Gatsby kind of resonated in everybody. And I think that's probably one of the reasons that it was such a popular choice. Like almost every high schooler is like, oh, I love Gatsby. I love reading that. Even if they didn't necessarily like reading in school, almost everyone liked that book.
Right. Because you can relate to it. Which I guess it takes us to Daisy, because I think Daisy is discontent with herself in a different way. And I think that she chooses to project and emotionally manipulate people as a result, which is unfortunate. But she's the flapper character and the pretty debutante. She's like, everybody wants to be Daisy. She's the it girl, but she's not happy. Yeah. And she projects because of that. And I wrote down a quote. This is a famous quote. So we were talking about earlier how we often forget that Daisy has a kid. She and Tom have a kid. But she talks about her kid. She says, I hope she'll be a fool. That's the best thing a girl can be in this world. A beautiful little fool.
I remember that quote. Like, I kind of, like, honestly, I didn't love the book. So I kind of skimmed parts of it. But I remember that quote from high school.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's rough.
I remember we talked about that in class, and, like, everyone was kind of like, what? Like, the guys were kind of, like, interesting, but the girls were like, excuse me?
Right. Well, and part of it comes from that she's married to Tom, because Tom is the retired football player who's really hot-headed, and he's most certainly a white supremacist. You can't take that away from me. I know that he's a white supremacist because of some of the stuff that he says. Who would want to be married to Tom? Because his life, he reminds me of, like, when the people who, like, high school was their highest point in life. Yes. And, like, so he was a football player and then he got injured. So, like, his life was at its peak when he was, like, 21. And then everything else was just kind of like...
So it's like he tries to maintain that allure that he had in high school, but it's kind of just a little sad now.
Right. And I think embodies, and we can shift the theme, I guess, that that Nick, like, sees these people, like, rich people, they're crazy, and there's, like, they're privileged, and, like, there's nothing more they can do. Like, these people sit around all day, and we'll get to the American dream next. They sit around all day with their money, acting like they've worked really hard for it.
But they didn't.
And they didn't.
No, it's easy. It's easy fortune.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is sad. So I don't think that we're supposed to, like, really like any of the characters.
No.
Because I think we're supposed to see in them traits of ourselves that we don't like.
Yeah. I see, like, with Daisy, I don't know if she purposefully manipulated people. I mean, she might have, but I also see a bit of indecisiveness.
Projecting.
I see a lot of indecisiveness in her, which I struggle with a lot. Like, I'd take not 20, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but I'd take a long time at a vending machine. Like, I remember one time at school in the laundry room, I wanted to pick out a soda, and you guys, like, finished your laundry, and I was like, wait, I don't know what I want. And then I was like, wait, maybe I want food. And then I went to the other vending machine in the laundry room, but then I couldn't, and you guys left me.
I have a quote. Okay. Moving on before I feel bad about that. I have a quote. I use this one a lot in my papers, but it says, she wanted her life shaped now, immediately, and the decision must be made by some force of love, of money, of unquestionable practicality that was close at hand. So I think she lets herself be swayed at what's currently readily available.
Yeah. So, like, she went from Tom, who could give her everything, to Gatsby, who she had the love for. And then when Tom kind of realized what was going on, he basically confronted both of them, and she had to choose.
Yeah.
And she went with the easier option, which was the money. Because when it came out, because at that moment, Tom revealed how Gatsby had his money, and that it was from, illegal matters, and if that's the case, there's a chance he could get caught.
Right.
He could lose that money. And she had to decide, okay, well, what's more important to me? Because I've kind of been in both areas. Like, I've been with a man with the money, and I've been with a man who actually loves me.
Right.
And in the end, she decided that she wanted the money. And so that indecisiveness is what hurt both those men. Right. I mean, I don't feel bad about Tom. I feel kind of bad about Gatsby, because he had, like, dreamed of being with this woman, and then he finally gets it, just for her to be like, you know what, never mind. It's like, oh.
Right. So with that, I think we can shift to talking about some symbols, and how they tie to the theme. I think, can we both agree that the theme, mostly that we both read out of it, was about the American dream?
Yeah.
And so about how the American dream started as something that was wholesome, like all of us we have immigrant ancestors who came stateside, who follow the American dream. So the idea that we could work really, really hard, and we could save up our money and eventually be like the rich people, or at least be well enough that we could support
our families.
But we see that it gets sort of twisted in 1920s America, because we see all these rich people who are unhappy just sitting around using their daddy's money, or using even money for Gatsby that he earned, but he earned it in a really bad way, because everybody's so backstabbing in order to get this money. And it ends up that they're just materialistic.
So, Fitzgerald, like, you can feel the judgment that he has as he writes the book of the, like, decay of the American dream due to more materialistic tendencies, the increase of available money, greed, and, like that theme can be seen throughout the whole thing about, Daisy's decision in the end to choose Tom when... I don't know. But, like, I think of the American dream of, like, and relate it to Gatsby's dream of being with Daisy.
Yeah.
And what was a wholesome love that he had turned foul because he felt he had to, like, get this money super fast to impress her. And so it was, like, this pure love that got darkened because of his rampant, crimes to get the money, just because he thought that his love wouldn't be enough. And that's sad and a fall from, like, the purer things that would have been back in the older days.
Upset sound. I don't know a good way to transition into symbols.
We could start with the green light.
We could start with the green light. We talked a little bit about the green light and how it's the light at the end of the dock of where Daisy's house. So it's what Gatsby can see. And I think it does symbolize that thing that you're always seeing it, but in the end, like this dream of wanting to be and live in the past. You can't live in the past.
No.
And he sees it, and in the end, it's just another daggum green light. Yeah. Like it's
not anything special. It's not something that, you can never attain, because once he did attain it, it wasn't what it cracked up to be.
So I pulled up at the very last, which this has become, I guess, infamous. It says, Gatsby believed in the green light, the orgastic figure that year by year recedes before us. It eluded us then, but that's no matter. Tomorrow we'll run faster, stretch out our arms just a little farther, and one morning, so we beat on, boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past. So, and I think it's really ironic that Fitzgerald obviously didn't know that the Depression was coming.
No, but it's so interesting that he talked about the increased use of money and like the dangerous wants and states of people's mind who had that money, because then a couple years later you won't wait.
And we're like constantly pining for the past, and I think even then, like, nobody's ever satisfied. No. It's so sad. And then just to go back to the materialistic idea, do you remember the parts about the shirts?
Yes, when throwing all of the shirts.
Throwing all of his shirts that he's imported from all these countries.
And she's like dancing in them.
And then she falls on them and she's weeping, touching these shirts. And she's like, they're so beautiful. And she's weeping over these objects.
And Gatsby kind of looks at her and is like,
what? Like, and then those are, I think, the moments where, like, you sense, I think we've all felt those moments where you realize there's something more, and you just kind of, like, stand there. And
well, it's like, it is like when you try to get something from the past. It's like if you had an ex, and you try to get back with them, and maybe you realize, like, slowly they're not the same person that they were, and there was a reason you broke up in the first place. You can never get back the original feeling that was there. And I think that's kind of what Gatsby realized. And then, total dagger in the back was when she chose Tom over him. But yet he's still covered for her with myrtle. Solid dude. Except for the bootlegging.
Except for the bootlegging. That's illegal. I don't know. Again, all these books always end up sad.
Yeah.
But I think in a, I don't know, like a sad, almost contented way. Because it teaches us the lessons about the American dream. It teaches us lessons about what happens when we're too materialistic. Thinking about, like, how they describe, it's like Daisy's voice is full of money. That's why we love to hear it. It's like a siren call, her voice. I don't know. And how we're so obsessed with these things. I think about Daisy with that pearl necklace on and just throwing it around when she's getting ready to marry Tom and so upset. And, like, these things don't mean anything. Like, they don't mean anything. And I think the second that Gatsby started to realize that, it was too late.
Yep.
Because George shot him. Sadness. I hope Nick learned that lesson when he moved away.
Yeah. Because he had the background of someone who had worked for their money, and he had connections to the social elite. So, like, he was a completely different story than Gatsby or Tom. Like, he had worked for his money, but he desired the lifestyle of those kind of people. And I think probably once all of that, was said and done, he moved back home, and he broke up with Jordan, and, like, he shed himself of any kind of, like, relation to that lifestyle, because he realized, it's like you get a temporary high, but look at all the death and decay and consequences that come with it.
So that being said, keep it in high school curriculum or not? Even though you sounded like you liked it a little bit. I'm trying.
I don't know. I'm the kind of person, and I think even in high school I was like this, where if everyone likes something,
you don't want to like it.
I don't want to like it. I didn't watch Stranger Things until like 2 or 3 years later, but then I liked it. I don't know, like, I skimmed parts of Gatsby. I read other parts, obviously, because I remember most of it, and I definitely remember the end.
Yeah.
I just, like, I don't know. I think it bothered me that everybody liked that book so much, and I wanted to be different.
I feel
and that. I don't know. I enjoyed other things so much more that people in my class seemed to not like as much, like The Crucible or The Scarlet Letter.
Yeah.
And so I think part of me didn't want to think of Gatsby on a deeper level. I was like, okay, it's just some bougie dude. And then he gets shot. And, like, there's nothing deeper there. But kind of going back over it and doing research on it for this, I'm kind of, realizing that there was more to it. Oh, fudge!
Just keep going. We'll just do a blackout and
But yeah, there was more to it than what I initially saw. And it's still not my favorite thing I read in high school, because there were others I like better. But I do like it, and I would definitely say to keep it in the high school curriculum.
I think so too. I think, and this is something that we didn't get to talk about a lot because we were apparently long-winded because my camera battery is not holding up.
Sad face.
Which is, I guess, a good thing. It means that these books meant something to us. But was the symbols, and like, this was the book that we learned about syntax, which is just sentence structure and how to analyze that. Just because, like, I don't know if Fitzgerald meant it that way, but it reads like, I watched Crash Course to prepare for this video, and John Green always talks about how, like, you could, like, put music to the way the words, like, it's just da 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 da. It's like almost like iambic pentameter, and just the way that it reads. So it's like, it's a really pretty book, and the symbols mean a lot. We were talking about yellow earlier, and with the car and everything, and gold, obviously, with, like, money and stuff. So it's good for teaching that to students as well. But I think, again, that materialistic and the American dream, it's a good book for an American classroom.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right, well, you can't see us anymore, which is sad because we both look really cute today.
We do look good today. I wore my gold accents just for Gatsby.
But I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I'm going to do the thing. Give us a like and subscribe down below. I can say that now. That's fun.
Woohoo.
But, if you enjoyed this video, comment other things that you want us to talk about, and we probably will. And we will see you next time. And this is us saying goodbye.
Read it and weep. 1, 2, 3.
Thanks for listening. Now we're gonna read it and weep.
There's pink ones in that chair over there. Okay.
Chili, man.
Can you buy, like, mega batteries for these cameras?
You could ask Jessica that.
I think that it's just not built for
Video.
The video takes a lot of power because it's doing 30 pictures a second.
Yeah,
Uh-oh. What was that?
hand sanitizer.
Oh, sorry.
Crap everywhere. Well, this time it was fair. It cut me off this time.
Yeah, we were in the middle of making a point.
Okay. Oh, no. We're back.